Welcome investors, hope you're all doing great and enjoying your weekend. Now, after a few days of drop, the week ended up with a strong rise overall. And as I mentioned, corrections are very natural and that right now is not a time we should be worried about from those few drops. As you can see, the Nasdaq 100 index shows a few days of drops but showed a strong rise on Friday. However, as you can see, the midterm and long-term indicators are both showing downtrend, so we can expect a little bit more of corrections. So let's keep that in mind. And now let's break down into individual stock. For Tesla, we were looking that it could go as low as the recent high, which is around this line, around 360. But fortunately, it bounced back before that with the market showing a rise overall. Short-term indicators shows a golden cross over here, but midterm and long-term indicators are showing death crosses. So we can expect Tesla to rise a bit, but we would have to wait a little more for Tesla to start a strong uptrend. Now let's look at Apple. Apple currently has 3 death crosses in all short, mid, and long-term indicators. So as I mentioned, Apple is currently facing more corrections. So we can expect Apple to move sideways for a few days, if not even weeks. So if you're an Apple investor, I would recommend you guys selling a portion of your portfolio at the higher points, usually at the green line, but since right now it's below the green line, I wouldn't really do anything with Apple right now. I would just patiently hold it and wait to see how the market moves. Now let's look at Nvidia. I mentioned I can start an uptrend in my Wednesday video, and it actually did, with the market bouncing back off after a few days of downtrend. We can also see that Nvidia has 3 golden crosses in short, mid, and long-term indicators, so we can expect a strong uptrend the next few days. And I also mentioned Nvidia as a buy in my community post. Although I would say Nvidia is not at its cheapest price because of the big rise it faced on Friday, but I would still say Nvidia has a lot more space to grow. So even though it's a little bit high, I would still say Nvidia is a good buy currently, based on how the market is moving, as well as the indicators that shows over here. We can also see that Nvidia has been consistently bouncing back off this particular line. As you can see over here, here, and here. So we can see Nvidia is doing a pretty good job getting supported from the indicators and this line, supporting line. Next is SOXL. I mentioned that SOXL rise together with Nvidia, so when the market moved well, SOXL also showed a little bit of a rise on Friday. However, the mid and long-term indicators both just started showing death crosses here, and the chart is playing below the MA lines. So we might have to wait a little more while for this one to start an upward momentum. And keep in mind that when the chart is below most of the MA lines, it usually does not respect the patterns, meaning it can move more randomly regardless of the indicators and the supporting lines. So as for SOXL, I think we would have to wait and see how the chart moves for a little longer. Moving on to Microsoft, we can see golden cross in the short-term indicator over here, and we expect to see a golden cross in the midterm indicator in a few days. We can see that it is entering the oversold line, and the blue and orange lines are getting closer, which means it is getting closer to a golden cross. But of course, we will have to see because no one knows how the market will move, but it is still showing a very good sign. And also, as I mentioned in my previous video, although it did go below the MA lines, we can say that the MA lines showed somewhat of a support for the chart, and we can see that it is bouncing back off near the MA lines. So I will consider Microsoft as a buy right now, which I also mentioned in my community post. So please take a look at the community post because I mentioned all the buy recommendation stocks over there. Amazon is looking somewhat similar with Microsoft. We see a golden cross in the short-term indicator, and the midterm indicator is moving towards the oversold area, but it's not quite there yet like Microsoft. So I would say we will have to wait a little longer and see how the market moves. I'm guessing the chart will move sideways for a little longer, but when the midterm and the long-term is looking for an uptrend, then it can start rising back up again. Now looking at Eli Lilly, it showed a golden cross in the short-term indicator, so we can expect a short rise. However, the midterm just started a death cross, and the long-term indicator is in a downtrend as well. So although we might have a little bit of rise, we can expect a little more stagnant and sideways moving chart for a little longer. Now I want to introduce a new stock in today's video, which is Joby Aviation. And we can see 3 golden crosses in the short, mid, and long-term indicators, along with a very strong rise this Friday. And although it did rise a lot, I'm still saying that Joby has a lot more space to grow, so I would still consider Joby as a buy. But looking at the short term, it could get some potential corrections because of how high it went up on Friday. So we can expect a little more correction and a bounce back after the correction. But looking at the bigger picture, I would say Joby Aviation as a buy since it has more space to grow. And finally, I want to introduce Waste Management, which is also a very stable stock. As you can see over here, it's been increasing in a very stable manner. But as you can see here, it has been getting a very big corrections and all the indicators are currently in the oversold area. So when the company stabilizes again, we can expect company to shoot back up as much as it got a big correction. That's why I consider Waste Management a buy, which I mentioned in the community post. So please refer to the community post along with my videos. Overall, after the big correction Nasdaq has been facing and the big bounce back on Friday, many of the stock currently has golden cross in the short-term indicators with death cross in the mid and long-term indicators. So we can expect most of the stock to show a bounce back in the near future. However, we'll have to wait a little longer in order for the market to start a stable, strong upward momentum. So remember guys, the market does not always go up. We have to be patient at times like this. And we are here together to invest wisely and stop losing money with stock. Please join my journey. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Thank you.